before we move on to the panel discussion, and just a reminder, if you have questions for Luciena or Jukka about their science or their careers or anything else, put them in the Q&A or in the chat. But we have two more people. Well, we have Emma coming back from the introduction. She's going to join us. And Deanna Hooper will also join us. I'm going to quickly ask them to introduce themselves with there's this brief slideshow here. So we have one slide for each of our additional people joining us. So Emma, if you want to introduce yourself first, please.
Okay. Hello, I'm Emma. Yeah, I'm a second-year PhD student in astrophysics in the cold interstellar medium at University of Helsinki. And I was at the Christmas party where Kumpula LGBTQ+ was founded, so I guess I kind of was one of the founding members. Yeah, as you can see, I'm on the aromantic spectrum, asexual, non-binary. Yeah, I don't know what. This is Luna. She's very loud. She wants to be in my lap. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to say.
Thanks, Emma. That's great. Should we move on?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Deanna Hooper. I'm a postdoctoral researcher. I actually moved to Helsinki only 7 weeks ago. So I'm still very new to Helsinki and to Finnish life. And apart from being a postdoc working on theoretical cosmology, I'm also extremely active in science outreach. I have a weekly science communication show, which is nice. It also means I have a bigger audience. So that makes it more important for me to actually be myself, going back to what Tom said earlier about being a visible role model. That does always weigh on my mind. I came out publicly as being pansexual 6 years ago, and I came out publicly as being non-binary only about 6 months ago, so that's also a relatively new thing for me. And I have lived in several countries. I've been traveling around, bouncing around Europe quite a lot before coming here. So this is my 6th country, so hopefully I can offer a bit of perspectives of different countries as well.
Great, thank you. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to maybe we can start with the panel discussion. So let's just maybe, before we move on to more general discussions, so far we have one question for Luciena here. So Luciena, if you want to answer this question about what you feel would be a more inclusive title, what would convey the idea of these events. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, I saw the question and I've actually been thinking about it. This is a very great question because yeah, to be honest, I do not have any very good suggestions, but there was one thing that came to my mind. So I've seen some people using the term gender and sexual minority instead of LGBTQ+. So I think this may be a good umbrella term to refer to anyone who is not conforming to any traditional gender or sexual gender identity or sexual orientations. But then using such a term in like a public event would assume that people already know what they mean. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what would be a better name, but I do think there's need to promote awareness of more like broader LGBTQ+ community, and also like terms such as GSM.
By GSM, you mean gender and sexual minorities?
Yes.
Yeah. Do any other panelists have any thoughts?
Just a comment. Also, along with GSM, I like GSRM, which is the same but romantic minorities as well. Yeah, I don't know. I think your answer was good.
All right. So if there's any questions, we have a Q&A question here. So then maybe we can look at this question. I'd ask the panelists, how do you feel that the situation in Finland? This is maybe to Luciena and Deanna especially. Like, how does the situation in Finland compare to other places that you've lived? Do you have any comments on that, since you've had international careers so far? And also Jukka, because you worked also in Lund for a while.
Yeah, so I moved to Finland in July, and I happened to arrive during the Pride week. So it immediately felt very welcoming to me because I saw all like advertisements in the streets and all the banners. I felt like, oh, maybe this is how Helsinki is like in regular times. And then it just felt like the right place to be for me. And then later I figured out it was just like a special 1 week event. But then other than that, I don't think I've actually had any opportunities to experience the local LGBTQ community here because yeah, I've heard that many queer events got canceled due to this COVID thing. Yeah, so I really look forward to everything opening up and then getting to know the locals a bit better.
I think my thoughts echo Luciena's here as well, that I've only been here 7 or 8 weeks and there haven't been many events going on currently, although things are gradually reopening. This is the first LGBTQ event I've attended in Finland, but I do want to say that this is the only country I've been in that has celebrated this day. So this is the first time I've actually been or had the opportunity to participate in such a panel event. So at least currently from my perspective, it's already doing a lot better than other countries I've been.
That's great. Jukka, do you have any thoughts at all? Or
I could just comment that well, Sweden and Finland are quite similar. All the Nordic countries are fairly similar to each other. As far as sexual minority rights are concerned, Finland has been a little bit slower. Sweden has always been the foregoer and similar to the, well, Belgium, Holland, etc. But basically the things are at similar level now in Nordic countries. And if I think of it globally and all the people I know from other countries, including developing countries, this is the most liberal and somehow societally advanced corner of the world. So we are somehow, even compared to USA and some European countries, we are a little bit spoiled here with the freedom and rights and freedom to live as we like. At the same time, I could say that Finnish people and Nordic people are fairly tend to be fairly moderate, so they are not very, including sexual orientation.
I think it's also important to note that a lot of like the developing world did have, I mean, it was very dependent on place and time and everything, of course, but a lot of the so-called developing world or global south or whatever the correct term is right now did have much more progressive attitude toward same-sex relationships, trans or even non-binary people before colonization. And I think it's important to note that Western European colonization has resulted in a lot more poisonous attitudes, not all of them, of course. And also that Finland, while being progressive, still the trans law is something that the UN Human Rights Council or whatever they're called has complained to Finland about. And it's honestly disgusting that trans people still have to be sterile, even if it's not permanently sterile, but still it's something
I think that's
I don't feel comfortable calling.
Yeah, that's the last piece in the Finnish legislation that needs to be corrected promptly.
Yeah.
And I think the government is working on it as we speak. So
yeah, the question, I mean, they'll remove that. The question is how much more will it support trans kids? Will it support non-binary recognition? Will it support how much of it will be medical gatekeeping still, where you have to go to the trans centers and get questioned for years about if you're trans enough? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of issues, but it's definitely.
Yeah, so then this is an important point, but maybe now that we can maybe look a little bit below the surface, and I think this question that we have, open question in the Q&A, is actually relevant to bring up at this point, which is that yeah, so on the surface, Finland is a relatively easy place in which to be queer and to be out about one's identity, one's gender, sexual, and romantic aspects of one's identity. But there are always, and I've experienced myself, but this is not about me, it's about you panelists, microaggressions and kind of headwinds to one's experiences and way. And so this question is about instances of navigating the world where you've experienced points of resistance to your identity. So where people have, which I would say, I guess in another sense would be kind of microaggressions or the things which are just harder to do because of how one perceives oneself. So there's a questioner was asking if there are any ways in which this covert resistance might interfere with careers in STEM fields and how one might mitigate them. So does anyone have any thoughts about?
I mean, if no one else has anything, I can say something. I don't want to monopolize the time, but
Deanna or Luciena, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I think we can go back to something Tom was saying before, that it's very time consuming and it saps a lot of your energy to constantly have to kind of defend your identity. And while these microaggressions might not seem like a lot, and individually they probably aren't, when they pile up, it is the question, choices am I spending thinking about things like this rather than thinking about my research? Obviously that will have a knock-on effect to how productive I might be in my career. So I think there are some instances, you know, we notice it a lot that people are very bad at using them. It's very difficult to get people to get on board with that. And it's very, very tiring to have that constant influx. And I think there's just a lot of small things that it's not necessarily one big thing that might get in the way of the career, although of course there is that as well. But it's as we were saying before, as Emma said in the first slide, it's death by 1,000 cuts, and it just is gradually grating at your conscience and at your identity.
Luciena, do you want to add anything?
Yes.
I basically completely agree with what Deanna just said. Like every time I have to have that talk about my gender identity and what pronouns I use, it's been very complicated to explain to people. I mean, even if they're open-minded, and it's a very repetitive process because people usually come up with the same questions. But then, on the other hand, if I encounter any microaggressions, I tend to just ignore them.
Yeah, go ahead, Jukka.
Yeah. So this the first question was this negative experiences, or whatever microaggression or blocks to careers in STEM or in science. I would say that even though I said that I haven't felt discrimination, intentional or any intentional adversity, I would still say that it's not quite the same being a gay man, even in my field in biomedicine. And there are several things like heterosexual male colleagues, professors. Sometimes you're just don't get invited to the same tables, and I think that I don't think it's intentional. It's just the saying that birds of a feather flock together. So if people like unconsciously or unintentionally feel that somebody doesn't quite belong to their circle of people or males, you don't get invited. So there's these kind of subtle things.
I think that's super important. Yeah, what always, I think one thing which we as a community and as people who think about this more carefully can do is we can always make sure we look around ourselves and make sure that we don't exclude people like that in that same way. That's something we can do, which can make things more inclusive and welcoming. We have one person's more of a comment than a question, but it's a good kind of comment, and it's somebody saying that they're really happy to see lots of LGBT plus people in STEM. So there's some nice appreciation from the audience there. So that's nice to see. I want to now maybe move on to a question about focusing more about like the university in Helsinki. So we've talked a lot about the climate and things, but and just again, maybe just does anyone have any thoughts on things that the university already does, and do you feel that you know where the resources are in the university that you need, and is there anything the university could do for you more than what they already does? So what it already does, like your experiences, like if any, like as it relates to the University of Helsinki, is what I'd like to know about.
If I can go on what I was saying before, so far overall I found the University of Helsinki to be extremely welcoming in every aspect and extremely open. About finding information, it seems to me that literally everything you could possibly want to know is available on the university webpage. And, you know, I found the LGBTQ group not long after getting here, found the corresponding Telegram group. And to me, it's given me the impression that the University of Helsinki is extremely open to people, regardless of their identity, regardless of any possible intersection of identities. It was also interesting for me to see, just 2 days ago, I attended yet another welcoming event here at the university. And there was a big section dedicated to EDI. And actually the image they chose to represent that was the pride flags flying in front of Physicum. And there were also comments made about just how the university wants to be a home to everybody. To me, this is probably the university where I felt the most welcome so far.
We could have gender neutral bathrooms in the research corridor, so that would be nice, because all you need to do is remove the male-female signs. But like, yeah, at least in Kumpula and back when I was a humanist, it seemed very open, welcoming and open. I can't talk. But yeah, I agree.
Luciena or Jukka, do you want to say anything about the university climate?
Yeah, I haven't really had many chances to.
Sorry to drop out. I think Jukka was wanting to talk, but he was muted, I think. Sorry.
Was I muted?
You were, sorry.
Yeah, but now not.
No, you're good.
So I was, like I mentioned during my presentation, I felt that already in the 1990s, when I was studying both in Oulu and in Helsinki, I didn't feel any kind of discrimination or prejudice against students of sexual minorities. So that I can't say. He wants to make a statement as well.
We're very happy that if your dog does make a statement. I say no, sorry for.
Oh, I was just saying that I haven't really got a lot of chance to experience the local environment, like culturally, but like in terms of infrastructure, yeah, I work in Exactum, which is on the Kumpula campus, and then most of the bathrooms are gender neutral, which I find to be very nice.
That's great. I'm going to go back to the Q&A from the audience now, and so we have a question about pronouns. So people refusing to use them, or something less aggressive, maybe? And regarding timelessly answering the same questions about pronouns, how, as allies, would it be a helpful way to handle this? So I think this person's kind of asking whether, like, should they guess your pronouns or find them out from something else, or should they ask you directly what they are? I think that's the gist of this question. Anyway, I guess it's a question about pronouns, so you can answer how you see fit.
If I can answer this, I think there's been a push lately for people to be more visible with their pronouns in email signature and Zoom names, and a lot of people are getting on board with that. But I've also noticed that it's pushing it slightly into the other direction, where people are expecting everybody to willingly disclose their pronouns. And I think we also shouldn't put people in a position where they're forced to out themselves if they're not comfortable. What I would personally recommend to allies from my own experience is a good way, if you don't know somebody's pronouns, is to offer your own first. Like just go out to someone like, hey, my name is Deanna, I use she, they pronouns. If the other person is comfortable disclosing their own pronouns, they will probably respond in kind. If they don't disclose their pronouns, you could default on they, them if you're not sure, because when we're talking about somebody who we haven't met, we will often use they, them. Like I'm going to call the doctor, I will speak to them if we don't know the gender. So I would say give the person an opportunity to offer their pronouns, but don't enforce it. And if they don't disclose them, settle on they, them until you're corrected.
Yeah, go ahead, Jukka, sorry. Yeah.
So I regarding the nouns, I'm a great fan of mentoring, and I've been mentoring students at various level for many years, and now I have these master's students that are doing a degree in the medical faculty, and I have a group of 4 master's students that I'm mentoring for during their 2-year degree. So then before I met them first time, I got their email addresses. So I asked them, or I emailed to them that please let me know if you have preferences for the pronouns that you would like me to use. And then none of them replied. So then I just presumed that it was fine to use the one I presumed from their names and from their looks. So it was not much, it didn't require much effort to send that one email and ask about that.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. And I think some people, firstly, I would want to say the pronoun they has an illustrious history in English. It goes back to Shakespeare and before. So there's nothing wrong with using they to refer to people whose gender you don't know at all, or if they have a gender which is not he or she. The other thing I point out is that often in Finnish is blessed with the han pronoun, which is or se if you're using the spoken language, which doesn't need have an associated gender. And Finnish is very lucky about that, but unfortunately, we're talking in English just now, and people still have gender even if the pronoun doesn't. So the gender identity should still be discussed, even if it seems that the language, Finnish language, my view is that they should always be discussed, even if the Finnish language makes it easy to avoid talking about it for a while at least. So, which is a nice thing, of course. It's very nice to have a language in which it's not something which you have to decide upon, like in languages like Romance languages where everything is gendered. Okay. Any other comments about pronouns? So then, out at work. So we've heard a lot today about like how it's nice to be out at work, and it's nice to be a role model, and like the being comfortable with that. But how do you balance the right to a private life with being out at work? So we want, some of us, maybe not everyone's comfortable being fully out, and how do you yourselves balance your private life with being kind of bringing your identity to the office, as it were? Do you find yourselves needing to strike a balance there? Is there discomfort there? And how have you decided to do that, especially if it's not if you're not in a very visible, your identity is not particularly visible? Does anyone have any comments about that?
I do very much agree that it's nice to have your private life, of course, and you don't want to be telling your work colleagues all of your personal details. But I personally see my gender and my sexuality is just part of my identity and not part of my private life. If I'm going to be in a working group, then I'm going to be there fully as myself. Now, of course, I'm not going to walk around introducing myself as this is my gender identity, this is my sexuality. And always when moving to a new place, it's nice to kind of get an idea as to whether the group in question is open to hearing about that and open to you being out. And I like being sort of subtle, but also not so subtle about it. Like currently on the bottom of my coffee mug, I have a pride flag. So in any seminar, people can very clearly see when I'm drinking from my, before I do have a very public online profile. If anyone goes to my webpage, to my Twitter, I am publicly out. So I don't feel the need to come out publicly in every new workspace. I just assume it might come up naturally in conversation. I won't deny my identity, but I also won't go around advertising it to every single person. I think everyone needs to find a balance that they're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way with like on Twitter. I have pronouns and sort of sexual orientation in my bio. I have pride stickers, which we could be handing out, Scompla LGBT as pride stickers, but unfortunately we're on Zoom, so we can't do that. But maybe one day. But I've had really bad experiences with coming out just because of well, ignorance. That I whether it's at work or with even with close friends, I feel really uncomfortable coming out because of all the sort of stigma. And there's been a lot of, well, not a lot. There's been some studies that show that people find, especially if you're on the aromantic spectrum, people see you as really like non-human, even because we can see all the messages that we get. This is what I was going to answer about the previous question, but then I didn't. But like the point is that like we get so many messages from everywhere that love makes us human. Even the queer community has the love is love things, and it's just, I don't know. This was kind of unrelated to this, but it's just really alienating, and you don't want to have to deal with those attitudes at work, especially as a junior. Like I'm a PhD student, and so it's worrying. We have colleagues in Hungary, for example. The first conference was in Budapest, so you kind of definitely want to balance personal safety with everything else. Also, I'm pretty sure my supervisor won't find me on Twitter and doesn't really care about.
Luciena, do you want to say anything, or you?
Well, I could say that I agree with you, Emma, that love is not overrated, but romantic love is far overrated, even within this community. And it was when there was this campaigns for the so-called gay marriage, etc. Many majority people and heterosexuals adopted these phrases like, if you love one another, you should be able to get married. And I always was thinking that how do you know they are in love? What does it have to do with this, that they have the legal right to get married and are legally equal to everyone else? But yeah, love is not overrated, but romantic love sometimes is.
Yeah, so I agree with Deanna that I like, work situation, I do not go around like introducing my own gender identity and also sexual orientation. And yeah, because I feel like it's irrelevant to my workplace it is, but like if the conversation ever comes to a place where like, say if I need to talk about my partner, then like my way of approaching this is the same as what Tom Walton said. So I'm just completely open about this. And then also for mathematics, there's a website called Spectra, which has a list of mathematicians who are out and are voluntarily like putting their information there so that other people can contact them if they have questions. And I'm on that list. And also, like regarding pronouns, since I'm also gender fluid, sometimes I'm a she and sometimes I'm a he. So it can be confusing even for people who know everything about my gender identity. So I tend to just, disregard it unless I'm in a like situation where it's like an LGBTQ event. say if I go to a general mathematics conference, I wouldn't put my pronouns on there. And then if someone actually happens to refer to me by the wrong pronouns, I wouldn't mind, because I know they did not mean any offense. It's just like for convenience of communication that they have to refer to me by some pronoun, and then if they happen to use the wrong one, it's okay, as long as they do not do it like with any bad intention.
Thank you for that. I think we're coming close to the end of our 2 hours now. So I think I would maybe ask everyone on the panel maybe for a final thoughts. And if you don't have anything, you're welcome to say whatever you want, but if you're not sure what to say, maybe you could say what you most would like allies to see allies of our community do for us, or how to support us, especially in academia. So just maybe Luciena can start, and then Jukka, then Emma, and Deanna, because that's the order on my screen. So how do you feel about going in that?
Yeah, sorry, I was looking at the content of the chat. I wasn't quite paying attention to what you were saying.
Sorry, yeah, maybe, so we'll start with Jukka then. So I was just asking people for a final thought, and like maybe what they feel like, if they're not sure, if people don't have a final thought, then what they would like to see allies. You're muted.
I would say as my final words that you should always treat people kindly and with respect, even if they don't treat you that way. And that's the best solution for coping with all situations.
Thank you. Yeah, Emma?
I think for allies, it's important to listen, learn, sort of, what's the phrase, like, don't stand in front of stand with the community, not in front of them. And if you mess up, which everyone does, just accept it and move on. If you forget someone's pronouns, that's fine. Try to do better, but don't have a big dramatic meltdown about I'm a horrible person. Yeah, that's, I think. And Google is great. There's a lot of resources available. And also, Luna says thank you very much.
Thanks, Emma. Deanna, do you want to go next, and then Luciena last?
Sorry, could we go to Luciena? I just got distracted by Luna and lost my trail of thought.
Sure, oh my God, Luna is so cute. Yeah, so yeah, my opinion on allies is mostly the same as that of Tom Walton. Like, I think it's not about being an ally, but about being a half-decent human being. Like, we should treat everyone with respect, and then when there's something we don't understand, it's better to like go with an open mind.
So as a closing thought, I would like to say to all the queer people watching and anybody in the community to look for people like you, because finding a community of like-minded people where you can have this type of discussion is an incredible thing. And I wouldn't be happily out and where I am today if it wasn't for all of the queer friends who have helped me get here. So really look for your community. And if anyone wants to message me to chat about that, I'm always open to discuss with people. And yeah, regarding allies, just be a good person. And if you see a microaggression, don't leave it to the person on the receiving end to be the one to stand up. If you witness a microaggression, try to put it right yourself. Try to help, because it does really go a long way.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and just to finish off, the recording of today's program and materials will be made available through the Science Basement, and also from the Kumpa LGBTQ+ group's web pages in due course. And I think if you registered for the event, we'll try and send you an email with the information for with those resources as well. And yeah, so for myself, I'm also very happy to be contacted by anyone in the audience who has any questions or comments about what's gone on tonight. But I think with that, I think we need to end it. We're out of time, and it's nice. It's getting late in the evening, and I'm sure people want to move on to other things. So thank you very much to everyone who made it this far. I've really enjoyed the discussion, and I'm grateful to Tom Welton, who's no longer with us, and to Jukka Kallijärvi and Luciena Xiao, our speakers, and Emma Mannfors and Deanna Hooper, our panelists.
Thank you, David, for organizing.
Thank you, and thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I have to thank I can't take the credit for organizing this. This is entirely down to the science basement. So Lea Urpa, Veronica Ahonen, Eick, and Katja Kaurinkoski, who are present as panelists here, but not with their cameras on. But maybe they can quickly turn the cameras on.
Thanks to all of you guys.
They are the people that actually made this possible. I wouldn't have done it without them. So please thank them as well. They're absolutely invaluable. So yeah, thank you very much to the Science Basement for facilitating this, and thanks to everyone on the panel and in the audience. And yeah, maybe see you next year. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy
Yeah, thank you very much.
LGBTQ+ and STEM Day.
Bye.